Today, we're going to have a conversation around the art of writing, the art of publishing, and the act of making books. And so, our topic this morning is the business of books writing, making a living as a writer or an author in a depressed economy. 2 years ago, I was actually in Geneva, Switzerland, to speak to the African group of WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, on what they call exceptions and limitations to copyright. And I recall that one of the strongest points I made is that if we keep on trying to make exceptions and limitations to copyright, which arose out of COVID challenges, a time will come when in Africa you will not have a single writer. Because if you say because times are difficult, an author will make an exception to his work, it becomes a common property, meaning he will not even make a living out of it. People are free to consult it without pay, and then you limit even some. That at present, authors are struggling. So what is going to happen when you now make exceptions and limitations to their own work? Well, these and more are things we're going to be discussing this morning, and I'm being joined actually by somebody who should know, somebody who knows, and somebody who wears the shoe and she knows where it pinches. He's a writer, he's an author, and in fact, he's the chairman of Association of Nigerian Authors, Enugu State Chapter, Dr. Nwoye. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Doctor. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's also good to have you. We've been planning this for a pretty long time. Well, let me start by making a background conversation. Writing, generally, has historically been one of Nigeria's foremost foreign, how do they put it now? Foreign earners. Because we produce men like Chinua Achebe, whose works traversed virtually every part of the globe. We have the likes of Flora Mapa, we have Wole Soyinka, we have our own Chimamanda Adichie. And so writing was a powerful tool of expression. So Nigerian writers have shaped global conversations on culture. Nigerian writers have shaped on culture, identity, and politics. And that's very correct. Yet, while Nigerian literature enjoys international acclaim, most Nigerian authors struggle to survive economically. And that's the sore point. That is where the whole trouble begins. The romantic image of the writer often marks as a harsh reality: low book sales, rampant piracy, weak reading culture, high production costs. That's a serious one. And of course, limited institutional support. If you are writing, you are publishing, you go to a bank to ask for financial support, you're on your own. Okay? Even the Nigerian government policy on I think it's a creative support or support for creative industries. Writers and even publishers get little. So it's the Hollywood guys that they pump all the money to. So Nigeria's current economic environment compounds these challenges: rising inflation, reduced disposable income, high cost of paper and printing, and declining purchasing power have turned books into luxury items for many households in Nigeria. At the same time, digital platforms, self-publishing, audiobooks, and online content creation are defining the global publishing industry, and by implication, writing. So, how do writers survive in an economy such as ours? An economy where even those who seem to be doing the daily beneficial items like food, like clothing, are still struggling. And they say, if you want to hide something from an African, you hide it in a book. And now they're not even opening the book at all. there's trouble. And therefore, the central question is no longer whether Nigerians can write. We know we can write. We know we are writing. But whether Nigerian writers can make a living from their crafts, especially in a depressed economy like this. So it's against this backdrop that today's conversation examines the business of books and writing and what it really takes to survive as a Nigerian author. Already I have introduced my guests, who is eminently qualified to have a conversation on this. And so I don't even know where to start. Like I will have to start somewhere, and we'll have to start in practical terms. And I'm going to ask a simple question. Can writing still pay in Nigeria today? But before you answer this, I want to actually go back to a few months ago to congratulate you on the election.
Thank you.
Being the chair of a group of intellects, or intellectuals, as we want to say, is not an easy one. Because if you want to see a stupid argument, put 10 professors in a room. And writers are like that. Because every person comes with his or her own idea. So electing you to lead us, as it were, is not an easy one. And I know, you are equal to the task. So congratulations on the elections. And I think I can say so far with that, not because you are here, you're already doing well. But you have to make us earn some money from our writing and not just talking. So, in practical terms, can writing still pay in Nigeria today?
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jim. The thing is this, right? Writing can still pay, but it cannot be the mainstay of someone's income. You cannot just depend on writing to make a living. We have to be realistic in this part of the world. A lot of writers, you're also a member of the association, have a main source of income from their work. A lot of people, they don't just rely on writing as their source of livelihood. No, you do that, you go hungry, because even the take home, well, a lot of us get from our regular jobs, it's no longer taking us home. So you can't just rely on writing. And something else that is a major factor is that you don't write because you want to make money. If you come from that mindset, you'll be very disappointed. So you have to have the passion. The income will eventually come in, but there has to be a passion for the craft. Yeah, it's something most writers have it as some as part of their makeup. You already have this gift of writing, and then you start expressing it. Some people discover early that they have it as part of the gifts, that the Almighty God endued them with. But some people learn to write, and they start writing. But in this part of the world, and I can say that boldly, that you cannot expect to make a living from writing, from just writing.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks. I'm not sure I know exactly, apart from teaching in the university, what Chinachebe had always done when he was not into trading. I won't be too sure what Shoyinka also, apart from writing and speaking. Chimamanda is another example, and there are several Nigerian people like that. Our very own Wale Kediron was a politician, and in the past couple of years, a decade or so, he abandoned politics, so to speak, and engaged actively in writing. So I think it's a matter of strategy. Okay, but having said that, let's make a distinction between textbook writing, fiction writing, and non-fiction writing, because they all come under the category of authors. And so, some textbook authors are making money, some fiction writers are making money, some not, but majority are not making money. That's the truth. Majority are not making money. And our job this morning is to try to think about how they can, because overseas a lot of people devote their time full time to writing, and I can tell you that because we try to do too many things at a time, we don't commit to our writing. We have very talented. Even on our platform, I read people's writings, and I'm so wow. How do we put this? And they just told me just before we entered there that Wale is on the tour to be actually on the tour to UK, because that's what they do. I recall that I was in the US, the book expo, actually in New York, and I saw book signing. That I stood on the queue for 2 hours to get just the book signed. I discovered it was not getting to my turn. I just did the African thing. No, this is my red cap. I said, hey guys, African Prince, I'm boarding a flight now. Can I go get signed my book? They said, okay, go. So I got there, and you see people sitting on the floor, waiting patiently to have a book signed. And I'm sure Wale will share his experience. So, before we get to how we will survive, how are you fighting piracy? Piracy is the biggest cankerworm that many authors in Nigeria are dealing with. Who is the pirate? The man who steals your work without your permission. And you find their novel, you may find that their novel is selling in some parts of Nigeria without their knowledge. And they're making money. And so if they can make money, why wouldn't the author make money? But how has piracy affected their trade generally?
Well, before I answer that question, I want to remind you that Wale is also a medical doctor. So he's not just writing.
I have forgotten that trade though.
He has his profession. Initially, he was focused on medicine. So I'm just trying to buttress the fact that you cannot just rely here, maybe in the West, but here no. But we are going to get to that. Talk more on that, I guess.
Yeah.
About piracy, like you rightly said, it's a cankerworm, and I don't know. You were, I think that you were at the forefront of this battle against piracy. I've always known you as someone who has been at the forefront.
I'm still at it.
Yes. So, but I don't think that the much that has been done has succeeded in nipping. Okay, maybe not totally nipped that scourge in the bud, because even as we speak, there are some we just came back from convention. You see very good books. You buy these books for the authors to break even. They have to sell at almost, the margin of profit isn't so much, but because of the, like I earlier mentioned, the publication costs. And then you see someone who is managing to recoup the funds invested in his work, finding the book in the market being sold for next to nothing. It's very heartbreaking. It shouldn't be. A few years ago, I have a mentor, Professor Nwoye. His books were selected as textbooks for a particular class, I think for GS3, and then the first year he sold so much, he sold almost 10,000 copies. By the following year, the market, the pirates had flooded the books at almost half the price in the market. So what he did to fight them was he went to the ministry and said, please, can you take my book out of the recommended text? They said, why? It's doing what? I said, please, can you just help me? I no longer want my book in the as part of the recommended text. And they were happy to oblige him. And you know what happened? Because when there's a market, they will do well. But once that book was taken out, it was no longer part of the recommended. So they were obviously stranded. The schools were no longer buying the books. They were stranded with the book in the market. So they had a massive loss,
And the author, what did the author get? He also had a loss.
Yes, he had already recouped most of his money from the first year.
Okay.
So the second time, he was going to look. I think this happened after the second year. So by the third year, he said they had taken the book out. So these people had flooded the market as usual, and they couldn't sell. So that was one way
That
he was able to
actually
combat.
that was a primitive way.
Well,
you know, MPA just had our, I'm not taking the word out from it.
Okay.
We just had our 60th anniversary. Actually, this year is our 60th anniversary.
Yes, I know.
And Wale was seated. Wale was actually our guest speaker.
Okay.
And he brought something that somebody had said. One writer said, how many Nigerian authors have the publishers been able to bring up to win international awards? And the guy was critical of publishing in Nigeria. The publishers said, okay. So the only contribution I made is, I want to know from Nigerian authors how much they have invested in fighting piracy in the past 10 years. And the hall was silent. And so that's a challenge. Perhaps that man must have been either a self-published author.
Of course.
Yes. I just left the seat of the presidency of MPA. Every year we spend millions and millions fighting piracy. And when we go for raid, in fact, just last week in Ibadan, they raided a shop and had recovered books worth over 141 million naira recovered from pirated books. We're in Aba, where we see about 20 containers at the risk of our own lives. And so we discovered that authors haven't really done much. And it's worse when we go, you find a self-publisher, you find his book there in the container. What are you going to do? Because every year the publisher will pay a certain amount, what you call copyright fighting fee.
Okay.
If my annual fee is 200,000, I'm going to pay 150% of that for piracy as a publisher. Because that's the biggest scourge. Once your book gets prominence anywhere, like you said, it's gone. You lost it. And so maybe sooner or later the Copyright Commission will be here. And I've told him, between publishers, the authors, we're going to have a conversation where we'll now discuss about it. If you go to Obete here, and find pirated books, you won't believe them. And parents go there to patronize them. Schools are even joining patronizing them. So it's the fact that the publishers, the authors will fight, even with the genuine booksellers, because they're genuine booksellers. But like you said, you know, they won't pay royalty to you, they won't pay illustrator, they pay nobody, they just print it book either in China, India, and bring them, and sell them at rock bottom prices. And they just are interested in how cheap the things are. So part of the call is that authors and publishers should come together. We're already doing that at national level, but at the state we should also come together to do that. Anyway, globally, writers are earning from ebooks, audiobooks, blogging, and the rest. How are you encouraging your members to embrace this new technology?
Uche, the fact is, it looks like a walk in the park when you hear about it. That you can sell your books on Amazon, on Seller, and all these channels. But the truth is, right now, I have my books on Amazon. I have my books on some local platform. There's one, this new guy, a bold scholar, he's really doing well, you know. But there are millions of books on Amazon as well. So you have to make a deliberate effort to market, to keep posting your links for people to see and to patronize you. So a lot of people, you know, they cash in on people's ignorance. Oh, once you get your book on Amazon, you start earning in dollars. It doesn't always work like that. They encourage you, they take some money for training, and then they help you get your books there, and then you find out that you have to do the marketing yourself, because without that, you can, except you're somebody like Chimamanda, who everybody is out there looking for when she's going to release the next book. So we encourage, and a lot of people in Anna Enugu, we have a lot of people on such online platforms. But again, there's another issue which is very fundamental, and I wish that you could talk about it more, because you're talking about piracy. There's something going on that I may need to draw your attention to, so that you can proliferate. You have people publishing books of AI, online. You just go, and then you see a lot of people advertising this thing. Do you want to publish a book? You want to be a writer? You go to AI, you tell maybe ChatGPT or any of those chatbots, I want a story like this, and they publish it, and even go ahead and illustrate it for you, and then they put it online. And then you, who is doing your own bit to get your book there, you're competing with a lot of, you know, of a lot of
AI generated text.
AI generated, yes, it's a problem.
So that genuine authors are suffering from AI generated authors.
Of course.
That what it means, and that is like virtually in every endeavor now. I was actually in China was it last year? Yeah, last year, invitation of the Chinese Publishers Association,
Okay.
the Beijing conference. And so one of the sessions was on AI and publishing and writing. And I had one key professor, I think from America, I can't remember his name now. He gave a keynote address. And sometimes when I watch keynote addresses overseas and what we do here, I laugh. That keynote address lasted for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Because it's a 1 hour conversation.
Extempo.
No, he has his slides.
Okay.
In 5 minutes, it was done. With the slides, 5 minutes. I remember one of the things he said is, he's an AI specialist, but he said, yes, AI can help you do a lot of things. And so let me bring an art of, who is the greatest painter? The work of Michelangelo or any of these painters. He said, that is the original. He then showed another one that was AI generated. And it looked like exactly like the original. He said, some people don't know the difference. But which end that's all I know, okay, I like the original. I don't like photocopies. So what does it say? AI contents mostly are photocopies, so to speak. They're not the original. They look like the original, but not the original. If you sometimes when you look at those AI generated contents, you find that some specifics are there. They even warn you. Does not mean that they're correct in everything they do. So if you don't put human element in it, what basically they're supposed to do is give you an idea of what you want to do. Then you infuse the human content. But they have created very lazy people who can't write anything. The simplest sentence, they go for help. And that is why, regrettably, many people are saying that this our idea of digital learning is killing creativity in Nigeria. Sweden was the first country to make an all-tablet learning. And encourage other last year or this year, they have banned it. They said go back to textbook. Go back to doing assignments. But Nigeria is trying to embrace it. They think it's the best thing to do for them. Well, it is, but even in Britain, even Princeton University had something they just posted that kids are suffering who are online addicted. Addiction to online. They no longer they produce smart kids, but not knowledgeable kids. Let me say it for emphasis. Using AI, whatever they're doing, generate smart kids, but not knowledgeable kids.
That's true. I totally agree with that.
Okay. As Chairman of Honor, what concrete support? Because you see, this thing we're saying here must be a little concrete. What concrete steps, what concrete support is the association offering their authors? Because beyond the fact that most of them are doing part-time, they must get institutional support. For example, capacity building and workshops. Are you organizing any advocacy and policy engagement? Are you mentoring upcoming authors? Are there grants? Are there fellowships? What are you doing to promote reading culture? Just take it in one big swoop. Yes.
Yes, like you already know, since I came on board, we have been meeting every month, and in those meetings, we have readings, we have critiques, because one of the best ways to build craft this crap, either poetry, whatever genre of literature, is by getting feedback. The feedback may not always be positive, but but you can build on it to become better. So at every meeting we have those feedbacks from, we have readings, and then from those readings we get feedback. That is what we can do within the association. Now we have also reached out to people we identified as the critical stakeholders, to assist us with some level of support for workshops, for trainings for our writers. In October, for the first time, Enugu was well represented in Abuja at the National Convention. In fact, the president had to ask other states to watch out for Enugu, because we want to go all out and see how can we improve ourselves as writers. How can we change the narrative? Especially, this is like, Enugu was like where the association actually started with Chinua Achebe and the Wole Soyinka. So we want to return to that glory, return the branch to that glory. So we are doing everything that we can. I spoke to you the other time about the possibility of attending the book fair in Frankfurt. So these are things that we are doing. We already have a lineup of activities. I don't want to go talk about them now.
I'm asking you that.
For next
I'm asking you that by the time we close. I'm asking you your projections. So you will stick on to it. I'm asking you your projections for next year. It's important. Yes, but go ahead.
It's okay. So.
Okay, so you already. My concern is the children in secondary school, university undergraduates, who have flair for writing. Is there anything you're intending to do to bring them, under your shadow? It's called mentorship. Because, okay, we meet as individuals. Some of us are already good at writing, but we go to replace Adobe.
Yeah.
As an author, as a writer, who's going to replace you? So we're going to replace all your members. It's critical. It's a critical point. So, is there anything you are doing currently to ensure that the younger ones do not abandon writing?
If you noticed lately, we have you're on the platform, so you have seen where I called for the secretary to post members of committees of different groups.
Yes, I saw that.
Now, we have some events coming up next year. There's one for the anthology. We are producing an anthology. We are collecting entries, not just from members, but from writers across board. We also have a spelling bee competition coming up next year for public primary schools. Next year, by the second quarter of next year, we are going into secondary schools to establish clubs, reading clubs. That is, we are going to start with Enugu Metropolis. We will have a sort of a sub chapter in most secondary schools, so that we begin to nurture them. By the time they are coming out from the secondary schools, they are joining ANAF as full-time members. So these are part of the things we want to do to entrench reading once again. People are reading. The thing is, what are they reading? A lot of children are on social media. They are reading, but the problem is, what is the content available for them?
What is the content they are reading? And that's a good point to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to go straight to retreats that Anna Enugu had just 1 month ago, or thereabouts.
Yes.
So we want to see what happened there. But for me, that is one point I felt that Anna Enugu is making a difference. So don't go anywhere. We're back shortly.